Fowltown raids dawn of the Seminole Wars. Native legends and history stories brings you tales of courage, sacrifice, and the untold stories that shaped America. Join our community of history enthusiasts by subscribing now. The morning sun glints off the waters of Apalachicola River, July 27, 1816. Through the lifting mist, Fort Rose weathered walls loom above the Spanish Florida coastline inside. 400 escaped slaves and their Choctaw allies move with quiet purpose. The fort, once a British stronghold during the War of 1812, now stands as their last refuge against an approaching American force. Hundreds of soldiers supported by Creek warriors and a fleet of gunboats that slice through the morning fog like steel sharks. At the fort's highest point, Garkin stands motionless, scanning the horizon. His carpenter's hands, once skilled at shaping pine and cypress, in Pensacola's shipyards now grip a musket. The wood feels foreign against his calluses. At 30 years old, his face already bears deep lines, carved by a life of servitude. Below him, American gunboats prowl closer, their gun ports open like hungry mouths. Hundreds of soldiers mass on the shore, their bayonets catching the early light. A young boy tugs at Garkin's sleeve. They say we should surrender. Garkin kneels, meeting the child's eyes. His fingers trace old scars on his wrists. Look at these marks. Everyone is a story of chains, of whips, of being less than human. Today we write a different story through the fort. His words spread like fire through dry grass. Women load muskets with grim determination. Old men position themselves at the walls, their hands steady on their weapons. The Choctaw warriors paint their faces for battle, chanting low prayers to their ancestors. No one speaks of surrender anymore. They know return to bondage would be a fate worse than death. The first American cannon roars. A ball screams overhead, throwing splinters from the wall. Inside the fort, gun crews scramble to their positions. Garkin's voice cuts through the chaos, directing defenders to their posts. The air grows thick with smoke as both sides trade fire. Grape shot winds through the air like angry wasps. Men cry out, blood darkens the packed earth. Days blur together in a haze of gun smoke and thunder. The defenders work in shifts, sleeping in short bursts between bombardments. Their return fire is determined, but increasingly ineffective. Ammunition runs low, and their aim suffers from exhaustion. The fort's walls show more scars with each passing hour, yet they hold. Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Clinch paces before his command tent, watching another volley bounce harmlessly off the fort's defenses. His Creek allies grow restless, their war drums beating through the night. His aide approaches with a water flask, hands shaking from exhaustion. Sir, the men wonder, do we charge the walls or starve them out? The decision weighs heavily. A frontal assault would mean heavy casualties among his infantry and Creek warriors. Yet a siege could take weeks, and Spanish reinforcements might arrive on the river. His gunboats maintain their relentless bombardment, searching for a weakness. On gunboat 154 sailors sweat over a makeshift furnace, heating cannonballs until they glow like harvest moons. The gun captain adjusts his piece with practiced hands, checking elevation, wind, distance. Behind him, a loader slides one of the glowing spheres into the cannon's throat. The metal sizzles against the wet swab used to clean the barrel. The boom echoes across the water. Through the smoke, the fireball traces an arc over Fort Negro's walls. For a heartbeat, time seems to stop. Then the world erupts in flame and thunder. The shot strikes the fort's powder magazine. The explosion rocks the earth for miles around. Bodies and burning debris fill the air. The fort's walls crack and crumble. Screams pierce the mourning men, women, children, their flesh burning as they run. The air fills with the stench of burning powder and charred flesh. American soldiers stand frozen at their posts, muskets forgotten in their hands. Where moments ago stood defiant warriors, now lies a scene of unspeakable carnage. More than 250 people, their bodies broken and burned, litter the smoking ruins. Those who survive stumble through the wreckage, their skin blistered and blackened. Among the survivors, Garkin emerges from the smoke. His clothes hang in tatters, skin streaked with blood and soot. 2 American soldiers grab his arms, but he walks upright to his execution, eyes fixed on the horizon. Around him, the few surviving defenders are rounded up. Their fight finally ended. The news spreads quickly through the territories, American, Spanish, and Native alike. In his village miles away, the Seminole leader, Neamathla, receives word of the fort's destruction. His hands clench into fists as he listens to the messenger's account. Rising from his seat, he sends a message to General Gaines. Any American soldier found crossing the Flint River will face the full fury of Seminole warriors. The smoke from Fort Negro has barely cleared, but already new storm clouds gather. The destruction of the fort marks not an end, but a beginning, the first rumbles of the Seminole Wars that will rage across Florida for decades to come. The summer sun beats down on Fort Scott as Captain Saunders Donahoe leads 150 men through its gates. In June 1817, his soldiers' boots kick up dust from the scorched earth, their uniforms already dark with sweat in the Florida heat. The fort's walls rise before them, blackened sections still testifying to Tutelo's sister's just raid. For months prior. In the surrounding forest, 12 native scouts crouch in the branches, making marks in the dirt for each American soldier who passes. From their hidden positions, the scouts note every detail. The 6 new cannon being dragged into position, the 25 supply wagons groaning under their loads of ammunition and provisions. They watch as Donahoe paces the ramparts, marking spots for repair, his shadow falling across the burn marks left by their torches. 30 days later, a larger dust cloud approaches from the north. Major David E. Twiggs appears at the head of 300 men from the 7th U.S. Infantry. Their march from Fort Crawford in Alabama, territory evident in their mud-caked boots and weathered faces. Behind the infantry column, 8 supply boats fight the current up from Mobile, their decks piled high with barrels of powder and lead shot. William Perryman stands at the tree line, watching the Americans settle into the fort. His right hand never strays far from his knife hilt, fingers tracing the patterns worn into the handle. 87 days have passed since he heard his brother's screams during Tutelos's attack. He's counted every one. Now watching the American forces grow stronger, his lips curve into a thin smile. He straightens his deerskin jacket and strides toward Major Twiggs' newly erected tent, a plan taking shape. Inside the tent, Perryman finds Twiggs studying maps spread across a wooden table. "Major," he says, voice carefully measured, "let me gather the chiefs. Let them see American strength. Some of us remember who our true friends are." His eyes flick meaningfully to the fort's scorched walls, visible through the tent flap. The council is set for August 4th. By midday, 15 tribal leaders arrive, their horses tethered in the shade of the fort's walls. The summer heat bakes the gathering space as they wait for Neamathla, chief of Fowltown. 1 hour passes. Then to Perryman's fingers drum against his knife hilt. Tap, 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 counting the minutes, until his chance for public confrontation slips away. At precisely 4 o'clock, Major Twiggs calls the council to order. His eyes sweep over the assembled chiefs, the proud leaders of Icanash in their ceremonial dress, the 3 representatives from Ochisitalofa wearing their war honors, the elderly but sharp-eyed chief of Chicanacla, supported by his 2 sons. The empty space reserved for Neamathla draws every eye, like a missing tooth draws a tongue. The council chamber, a hastily cleared storage room, grows stifling as the afternoon wears on. 8 chiefs rise in turn to pledge peace with the Americans. Yet their careful words carry barbs. Stories of 23 villages east of the Flint River preparing for war. Rumors of 150 warriors gathering near the Apalachicola. With each tale, their eyes drift toward Fowltown's direction. Major General Edmund Gaines listens from his chair, sweat darkening his collar. His weathered hands, marked by 30 years of military service, clench tighter with each veiled warning. When the last chief falls silent, Gaines surges to his feet, his fist strikes the table. Sending maps fluttering, the Miccosukee will surrender. Those responsible for the St. Mary's River killings. 6 settlers dead, their farms burned. We know Neamathla's warriors did this. Through the rising tensions, Major Twiggs maintains his composed exterior, but his quill moves steadily across a sheet of paper, noting each chief's reactions. When Running Bear of Akanachati mentions Neamathla's name, 3 other chiefs exchange quick glances. As White Cloud of Okisatalofa speaks of peace, his hand forms the subtle gesture for false words used by his tribe. The council continues for 5 more hours. 14 speeches are made, 7 peace pipes shared, countless promises exchanged. Yet beneath the ceremony and diplomatic other messages pass in subtle signs and careful omissions. Puriman's scheme, born of personal vengeance, has laid bare the deep divisions among the tribes. As the chiefs depart, mounted warriors appear on the distant ridges. 25 of Nyamathla's men watching the proceedings from afar. Their presence serves as a reminder that while some chiefs seek peace, others prepare for war. The political currents swirling around Fort Scott grow deeper and darker with each passing day, threatening to pull the entire territory into conflict. Major Twig strides into General Gaines's tent, his boots muddy from inspecting the fort's defenses. The candlelight flickers across a map of the territory spread on the rough wooden table. "General, I must speak plainly about the Seminoles." Twig's fingers trace the line of the Flint River on the map. 8 days ago, I stood face to face with the chief of Fowltown. His words still ring in my ears. "This river marks our boundary. Cross it to take even a single tree, and there will be blood." Twig's weathered hand clenches into a fist. "In all my dealings with the Seminoles, not one word can be trusted. They'll never surrender their warriors to us, never." Gaines nods slowly, the shadows under his eyes revealing sleepless nights spent wrestling with this crisis. Yet he drafts one final message to the tribes. A runner departs at dawn, kicking up dust as he races toward the Seminole camps. 10 days later, Capa Chico's response arrives. The Seminole messenger stands tall in the fort's courtyard, his voice carrying to where 50 soldiers gather to listen. "You speak of murderers, yet 3 of our people lie dead. You demand justice, yet our cattle vanish into white settlers' herds. You push us from our lands, then claim we are the thieves." The messenger's eyes sweep the assembled soldiers. As for the escaped slaves, they carry the British Crown's mark of freedom, earned with blood in 1812. "We have our own slaves, many of them. When the English return, we will speak of this matter, but not to you." The messenger's words hang in the air like gun smoke. General Gaines retreats to his quarters, where candlelight burns late into the night as he pens 2 letters. The first races south to Major General Andrew Jackson. The second, nearly identical, heads north to the Secretary of War. The ink glistens as he writes. No path to peace remains. Yet Gaines makes one final gesture toward diplomacy. His surveyors plant stakes along the boundaries set by the Treaty of Fort Jackson, marking land ceded after the Creek War of 1814. The Secretary of War's response is swift. Remove all natives from American territory, but do not cross into Spanish lands. The autumn chill settles over the territory as Gaines leads his men south. 500 soldiers from the 4th and 7th Infantry march from Fort Crawford to Fort Gaines, their boots churning the military road to mud. On November 18th, they arrive at Fort Scott, weapons gleaming in the winter sun. A runner speeds toward Fowltown within the hour, carrying Gaines's demand to Nyamatha. The message's terms are steel wrapped in silk. Come to the fort to meet, or be declared an enemy of the state. Flight is no option. It would only confirm guilt in American eyes. Nyamatha's refusal arrives with the setting sun. Before dawn on November 20th, Major Twiggs assembles 150 hand-picked men. General Gaines's orders echo in their ears. Spare the women and children when the fighting starts, not if but when. Under cover of darkness, they cross the Flint River in 15 boats and canoes. The vessels slide silently through the black water, turning east toward Fowltown. The first gray light of dawn reveals their target, a village unaware that war approaches on silent feet. In his candlelit office at Fort Scott, Captain Hugh Young hunches over detailed maps, his quill scratching across parchment as he compiles reports from 12 different scouts. The topographer's precise hand marks Fowltown's location 12 miles east of the fort, nestled in a stretch of fertile land between swamp and forest. His notes detail every aspect of the settlement. 35 wooden structures arranged in a rough circle, fields of corn stretching for 100 yards to the north, 3 freshwater springs within easy reach. The settlement houses between 30 and 40 warriors. Young writes, his ink-stained fingers moving steadily across the page. Their chief Neamathla displays both the cunning of a fox and the courage of a lion in negotiations. He pauses, adding, observations from officers who visited the village's strategic position, commanding key hunting grounds, the well-maintained paths leading to other Seminole settlements, the carefully hidden weapons caches discovered by alert scouts. The pre-dawn air hangs heavy with fog as Major Twiggs assembles his force. 250 men check their weapons by lamplight. 175 regular infantry with brown best muskets. 50 riflemen carrying long Pennsylvania rifles. And 25 Creek scouts who know the land like their own hands. Among them 15 experienced officers maintain strict silence as the column forms. At 4 a.m. they begin their approach. The Creek scouts lead, moving through the darkness like shadows. 3 advance parties of 20 men, each spread out in a crescent formation. Behind them, the main force advances into parallel columns. The morning mist swallows the sound of 500 boots, carefully placing each step. Neamathla's confidence in his diplomatic standoff has left Fowltown vulnerable. No sentries patrol the perimeter, no warning fires burn. The 8 warriors who normally stand watch have been sent to gather intelligence on American movements near Fort Scott, itself a fatal miscalculation. The silence shatters at 5 a.m. A warrior emerges from his dwelling, stretching in the gray dawn. His eyes widen as he spots movement in the mist. His musket comes up as he shouts a warning, the sound cut short by his own shot crackling through the morning air. The American lines straighten with mechanical precision. 150 muskets level in unison. Twiggs's voice rings out, first rank ready. Present fire. The synchronized volley turns the morning fog brilliant orange, the thunder of 150 guns firing as one rolls across the settlement like Judgment Day. When the smoke clears, 5 bodies lie still in the bloody grass. 4 warriors who rushed to defend their homes, and a woman who ran from her dwelling. Shouting warnings among the dead is White Hawk, one of Neamatha's most trusted advisors, his musket still clutched in lifeless hands. Neamathla himself emerges from his house, wearing only leather leggings, his war club gripped tightly. In one sweeping glance, he assesses the situation. 250 American soldiers encircling his village of 40 warriors. His voice rises above the chaos, speaking first in Muskogee, then in heavily accented English. To the swamps leave everything. Live today, fight tomorrow. The evacuation unfolds with practiced efficiency. 15 of the youngest warriors provide covering fire, while women grab essential supplies. 25 children are quickly gathered and led away by the eldest women. Within 10 minutes the village is empty. Save for the dead and the advancing American forces, Twiggs's men secure the settlement, methodically searching each structure. In Neamatha's dwelling they discover a leather pouch containing correspondence among the papers. A letter bearing the British seal catches their attention. The formal script declares Neamatha a true and faithful friend to the crown. Damning evidence in American eyes. 48 hours later, Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Arbuckle approaches Fowltown from the north. His force is larger, 400 men, including 75 mounted soldiers. This time Seminole scouts are prepared. 6 signal guns boom across the swamp in quick succession. The sound of war cries builds from 30 different locations, creating the impression of a much larger force. The Americans find the village seemingly abandoned. Arbuckle orders 100 men to begin loading the corn, stores 300 bushels of precious winter supplies. Into 12 waiting wagons. From the northeast swamp comes the rising chorus of 60 war cries, then silence at precisely 7 a.m. The attack begins. The sentinels posted at the swamp's edge barely have time to shout warnings. 60 warriors burst from 3 different directions. Their first coordinated volley, dropping 3 American soldiers where they stand. The natives charge forward across 100 yards of open ground, displaying reckless courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Take the houses. Arbuckle's command rings out. His men scramble for defensive positions, turning the village's 35 structures into a fortress. For exactly 25 minutes, the air fills with gun smoke and war cries. 8 warriors fall on the open ground, their blood soaking into the earth they died defending. 16 more drag wounded comrades back into the sheltering swamp. The intensity of the attack stuns the American officers. Captain William Morris, a veteran of 15 years frontier warfare, writes in his report, "Never have I seen such disregard for death. They attacked across open ground against 6-to-1 odds, fighting like demons for mere corn stores." But what Morris sees as mere corn represents survival itself. To the Seminoles, those 300 bushels would feed 150 people through the winter months. Without these supplies, elderly tribal members and young children face starvation. The Americans withdrew northward to Burgess Bluff, carrying their single casualty. Musician Aaron Hughes, age 22, had joined the Army just 6 months earlier, dreaming of adventure. Instead, a Seminole bullet finds his heart early in the battle. Over his fresh grave, Arbuckle orders the construction of a new fortification. Fort Hughes stands as both a memorial and a warning. The raids achieve none of their strategic objectives. Nemathla remains free, his influence growing stronger. The winter corn stores, though lost, become a rallying cry. In 15 different tribal councils across the territory, chiefs who once feuded now find common cause. The Lower Creek, represented by 12 chiefs, meet with 8 Seminole leaders, 5 black Seminole representatives, 7 Red Stick warriors, and 4 Miccosukee elders. Ancient grudges are set aside in the face of American aggression. In council fires across 100 miles of territory, 46 chiefs speak with one voice. The Americans must be stopped. Their fury would soon paint the frontier red.